I'm Alex Gluchowski from Meta Labs, founder CEO of Meta Labs and one of the creators of zk-sync, and you probably know zk-sync. It's arguably the most mature zk rollup stack in Ethereum today, with by far the most number of transactions in production. There was a recent airdrop, and after the airdrop, we still remain very high on the number of active users. So, okay, I can now move. Yeah. So, and zk-sync is most production-ready zk tag also from the platform perspective, like from the ability to actually handle the high load. But what I want to talk about now is why we're here. I just want to remind everyone why we're here in this space. Crypto can be distracting with all the meme coins and speculation and all these things, and then there's bear market, bull market cycles. Can be a bit depressing, but like the war values that this industry is built on, they were fundamental to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, to sovereign rollups, and to zk-sync. So zk-sync is based on the belief that freedom drives progress, unlocks creativity, and which in turn drives prosperity. And our mission has been from the beginning, from 5 years ago, to increase advanced individual freedom by mass adoption of crypto, of blockchain tech. And mass adoption means that first of all, we have some properties that we want to preserve at a huge scale. We have spoken about them in the zk Credo last year, tried to articulate them in precision. I'm really happy to report that a lot of progress have been made specifically on zk-sync on many of them. Ethereum probably scores higher on most by far, except for hyperscalability, by this ability to actually reach the population of the world. Like we have 5 billion active internet users, and to reach them, just like the internet cannot scale on a single server, the world of blockchains cannot be one blockchain. Like it's inevitable. We all agree that there must be many chains. And this is basically what zk-sync 3.0, what the elastic chain is about. It's a transition from initially the simple payment, application-specific payment zk rollup to the zk EVM, the first zk EVM we launched last year, to now a network of chains, which is very similar to the idea of Cosmos and Polkadot and the sovereign rollup ecosystem, but with a very important distinction. I want to talk about it in technical terms. So that's the elastic chain. There are many chains that are connected together at the protocol level natively under a single, uniform intuitive UI. So you have basically the metaphor is elasticity means that the capacity of the system can increase proportional to the demand. And if the demand increases arbitrarily high, the capacity can go basically infinite. You don't need to buy additional drives and attach to your laptop. You can just go to Google Cloud or whatever and have as many documents and as much storage capacity as you need. That's the metaphor. That's what we need to get in order to get to mass adoption of cryptography, of blockchains. And seamless UX means that you have one wallet, one account. You as a user, like if we're speaking about the billions of users, normal users, mainstream user, the audience, they should not bother about technological complexities of seed phrases, paying gas, understanding, bridging between chains. Should be like the internet. You have your account, you interact, you just sign. You have your smart wallets, which are natively implemented at zk-sync, non-natively implemented in Ethereum, and you use biometric keys, full self-custodiality, but very easy to use. And you pay gas in any token you transact with, right? All of that should work cross-chain, but the huge problem of today's cross-chain is that it's fundamentally limited. And I really want us to understand this, but we have very little time, so I don't know how we're going to make it. Distinct blockchains that are not connected together look like a state with a consensus of validators that come to agreement on what the state is. Right? And we have some accounts with some state. And let's imagine we have a separate blockchain and we want to transact. You want to send some native assets from Ethereum to Solana. you can't really do this because there is no native ETH on Solana. So you need to create an asset which is going to be like virtual counterfactual representation of your Ether account. And you need to lock this amount of the token you're going to be sending in the original chain. And then you need somehow to be able to pass messages to unlock it back, to ensure that this is authentic, that this ETH is valid. And this is something we cannot do between separate, disconnected blockchains. Because if you take IBC paradigm, for example, from Cosmos, which says like, okay, we have consensus there, consensus here, full Byzantine, full tolerance, we can just send messages that attest that we have a majority of the validators signing this, right? And then the other blockchain will accept that, will verify signatures and unlock the funds. The problem is it's not the full picture. You don't see all the full nodes of all of both chains that have subjective view on what consensus really means. Like, they are far more important than your validators because they enforce the security, the validity of the system, even if the validators are malicious. And that is very, very important. That is what gives you sovereignty, not the economic security of, oh, we have so much stake in the validators. And this, like, those guys all would have to trust the other blockchain from where the bridging is coming, or like between the two blockchains, the bridging is working. But that does not scale for 5 billion people, because if you have thousands of permissionless blockchains, like sovereign rollups, separate blockchains, whatever, like non-sovereign rollup, you cannot subjectively convince all of the full nodes that they can trust completely unknown entities that operate those chains. Like, that just doesn't scale. Like, you cannot pass a message from the upper left corner to this, to this, to this, because you don't know what's in between. It's like sending an internet message from your laptop to your bank without SSL, without cryptographic authenticity of the message. Like, you don't know who's in between, who's going to do something malicious and replace your message with something invalid. And with rollups that settle on a single layer 1, the problem is slightly different. You can pass messages, and you need, like, it's very important. You can pass messages by making a commitment to the layer 1, and in reading this commitment from another layer 2. It requires to have ZK proofs. Like, you can only do it like efficiently between ZK rollups. You cannot do it with optimistic rollups because you have to wait 7 days for finality. It doesn't matter if you do it on layer 1 to layer 3 is settling on layer 2s. You will still have the 7 days finality for objective machine-to-machine verifiability of what's the correct state. But let's assume we have 2 ZK rollups. That still is not sufficient because you have all of the balances of native assets from one rollup and another rollup stored in separate smart contracts on your layer 1. And so if you want to send the assets, you would need to update those balances. And that means transactions on layer 1. And that completely defeats the purpose of layer 2s, where we have 1 cent per transaction, whereas on Ethereum it's like $10. And now you will have to propagate this $10, and you break the UX, you break the composability, you break the seamlessness of the system, not to mention the costs, which will go exponentially because you have this bottleneck of layer 1. So what do? You need a shared smart contract for those chains. They would need to opt into something shared, which only stores the root hash. Now you can make the changes in the state and only update the root hash, but the assets that are pulled together are remaining in this single contract. And this is what the Elastic chain is about. Like, it's having this, we call it ZK router. It's the single contract that contains all the state. And we have ZK gateway, the aggregator that composes the proofs from the chains together, verifies them cryptographically, and then settles on Ethereum. It also does a bunch of things like state recompression, for example, that makes it a lot cheaper for these chains to produce like 1-second blocks, but then settle on Ethereum in bigger batches. But it gives you the ability to transact between any number of these chains seamlessly with full trustlessness, with those chains being completely autonomous. They are operated by separate sequencers, by separate validators, whatever. But from a user perspective, you just have one account. You can access applications on any of those chains, no matter where you are. You don't have to maintain multiple accounts, don't have to bother about gas and so on. And I hope that one day we will have this something like a ZK router Ethereum-wide, where we all agree on some standard. We have some isolation ZK proofs that like guarantee, with multi-proofs, we guarantee that the rollups are like not harming each other. And this thing is enshrined in Ethereum. And then we can do it cross rollups, and like all of the entire rollup-centric world can interop natively this way. But this is probably much further down the line. I think this it will be like 2-3 years from now. For now, we'll experiment on ZK Sync, and I think we will be the first ecosystem to actually have this native interop live very soon, because now ZK router is live, ZK Sync era is plugged into it, and we have a few dozen ZK chains ready to be deployed this year. They're being built right now. A lot of them, those guys are on the testnet. More are in the building. They will be plugged into the system, and at least they will be connected in the Elastic chain ecosystem that is seamless, trustless, and goes towards the preservation of the cypherpunk values we care about at a global level with billions of users. And it was really cool. Like as a developer, you have a really interesting way to deploy your application on one of these rollups, like on ZK Sync Era, for example, find product market fit, build your community, bootstrap in an easy way. And then once you're big, you need a lot more throughput, you can graduate to becoming your own ZK chain in the Elastic world and have your own token, your own sequencer, your own validators, everything. And that is why ZK is the end game. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.